There are certain moments in life when someone steps onto your path and suddenly the very idea of coincidence no longer feels believable. You can trace back the sequence of events and try to make sense of how everything came together, but somewhere beneath your reasoning, your intuition already understands that logic was never truly steering the course. This person did not simply walk into your life. They arrived carrying a meaningful purpose that felt destined from the very first moment your paths crossed. When they appeared, something shifted inside you in a way that was gentle, yet lasting in its effect on your spirit and the direction of your future. Even now, as you push yourself to move ahead and convince your mind that everything has ended, there remains a pull that refuses to loosen its hold. As you try to think your way through the pain, something keeps drawing your attention back to them again and again. This is not desperation. It is the weight of something deeply familiar, something woven into your own journey and the experiences that have shaped you. If this message has reached you today, it is not by accident, because meaningful messages have a way of arriving precisely when the soul is open enough to receive them. Carl Jung once wrote that whoever looks outside dreams, while whoever looks within awakens to the truth of their own existence. Right now, something profound within you is beginning to stir and perceive things as they actually are in this present moment. It is a form of inner knowing that refuses to stay quiet or be dismissed by a logical mind trying to press forward. It is a feeling that insists this bond was never meant to be forgotten or set aside like an ordinary memory. You may have arrived at a place where you feel divided between competing thoughts and the actions you take each day. You feel caught between clinging to what once existed and finally releasing the expectations you held for so long. You are torn between what your heart is telling you and what your eyes are showing you. Silence has a way of feeding uncertainty, and distance can cause even the most grounded person to question what they sense deep within themselves. You may have wondered whether you imagined everything or whether you were building a reality in your mind that never truly existed outside of it. You might believe you placed too much meaning onto something that was never really there. But imagination usually softens with time. Illusions tend to crumble when pressed against reality and separation. Yet this connection has remained steady through passing months and the space between you. Your soul continues to hold on to this person, and there is a significant reason for that which you are only beginning to understand. This person matters, not in the way the ego craves, but in the way the soul recognizes someone who serves a meaningful role in growth and inner change. This is not obsession, because obsession is loud, urgent, and relentless. What you feel is much quieter than that, and far more profound. It lives beneath the surface of your thoughts and waits patiently for the right moment to reveal its deeper significance. It surfaces during still moments and in unexpected waves of emotion that seem to come from nowhere in particular. Connections that genuinely transform us are never shallow. They rearrange something within us that once seemed permanent and settled. They open doors that can never be completely shut again, even across great distances and extended stretches of silence. Even now, they sense your presence more than they allow themselves to acknowledge. Some people carry enormous emotions behind a composed exterior. Silence does not mean the feeling has gone. It often means the feeling is so vast that they do not yet know how to hold it. Their distance is not evidence of indifference. It is frequently the fear of the vulnerability that this connection is asking of them at this point in their life. They fear surrendering control. They fear being seen at a depth they are not yet ready to expose. This is where many meaningful connections begin to fracture, because one soul opens faster than the other is prepared to. The other person withdraws from the reflection being offered to them, and you became that reflection. Until what is unconscious becomes conscious, it will govern your life, and you will name it fate. Right now, they are being steered by things they have not yet confronted within themselves. But once a soul truly wakes, it never returns completely to its former sleep. You entered their world to remind them what emotional honesty feels like and what it means to be genuine with another person. You reached a place inside them that had been untouched for a very long time. And that kind of impact does not simply vanish without a trace. The universe does not squander meaningful encounters, and if this connection were truly finished, it would have ended with clarity and without lingering feelings. Instead, it continues to appear through quiet signs that catch your attention and through dreams that feel more vivid than ordinary experience. These are not distractions. They are reminders encouraging you to trust what is unfolding beyond your present understanding. There is a difference between forcing a door open and knowing it will open on its own when the moment is right. Your hope is not weakness, it is intuition, and intuition does not need to announce itself loudly in order to be heard. At this very moment, something is shifting beneath the surface. The resistance is slowly softening with each day that passes. The heart that once guarded itself is beginning to yield to its own undeniable truth. Whether they acknowledge it or not, the thought of losing you entirely is becoming more unsettling than the idea of trying once more. Patience becomes the passage to peace when it remains steady and rooted in something real. Trusting the timing of life does not mean abandoning your self-worth. As this message settles within you, notice what feels true without effort. Truth does not need to push itself upon you. If your heart grows more peaceful rather than more anxious, that is often a sign that you are moving in a direction that serves your highest good. The connection is not fractured. It is evolving, and as it changes, both of you are being reshaped by the experience. What you are living through right now is not simply waiting, it is becoming. It is the process of growing into the person you were always meant to be. You may have noticed that ever since this connection entered your life, you are no longer the same person you once were. Your emotional awareness has expanded. Your standards have become clearer and more defined than they used to be. You can no longer accept hollow connections or affection that only shows up part way. Sometimes a connection does not arrive to stay immediately. Sometimes it comes to awaken you and open your eyes to possibilities you never knew were available. And once that awakening takes place, there is no returning to the version of yourself that existed before. You cannot go back to sleep after glimpsing what is possible. You cannot comfortably settle for less than what your heart now understands as real. The person you were before this connection no longer sees the world through the same eyes. You have absorbed lessons about yourself that could not have been delivered through comfort alone. You have uncovered strengths you never realized you carried. You have walked through fears that once lay hidden beneath the surface. And even though the path has not always been smooth, every step has sculpted you into someone wiser, more grounded, and more self-aware than before. That growth is not accidental. It is part of the deeper intention behind everything that has unfolded. Whether this person comes back tomorrow, next month, or further down the road, the transformation taking place within you right now holds its own tremendous value. Nothing has been wasted. No emotion has been without meaning. No lesson has appeared without a reason. Everything is contributing to the continuing story of who you are becoming. And perhaps that is the most significant gift this connection has offered you. Not simply the possibility of reunion, but the chance to become more fully yourself than you have ever been. Releasing this feels difficult because you are still holding a truth about yourself that was formed through knowing this person. You discovered how deeply you are capable of feeling and how completely you can be emotionally present with another human being. Soul connections rarely travel in a straight line. They move in spirals and return to the same lessons repeatedly, each time at a deeper level than before. They call for greater honesty, more courage, and a stronger willingness to face who you are becoming in the present moment. What makes this feel layered and complicated is not the absence of feeling, but the difference in timing and inner readiness between both of your journeys. You are open and prepared to expand, while the other person is still working through their own internal resistance, fears, and personal healing. Unresolved connections do not simply dissolve. They linger in the background and tend to rise again when life grows quiet and distractions fade away. In those still moments, late at night or early in the morning, you may become the silent reference point they cannot help but measure other experiences against. Not because you are actively present in their life, but because the emotional imprint you left remains strong within them. This is also why certain signs seem to keep appearing around you, not to keep you suspended in confusion, but to steady you when doubt begins to creep in. When uncertainty enters your thoughts, something often surfaces to remind you that what you feel is not imaginary. There is a deeper shift happening as you begin to grasp the difference between attachment and alignment in your emotional experience. Attachment whispers that you need this person in order to feel whole or at ease. Alignment reminds you that you are already complete on your own, even without certainty from someone else. When you stop chasing clarity and instead begin to embody it, the emotional dynamic begins to shift, and the heaviness around your heart slowly releases its grip. The connection is no longer fueled by anxiety, but by a calmer and more grounded presence that allows genuine possibility to exist. This shift is sensed by both sides, even without a single word being spoken. You may notice that you are no longer waiting in the same restless way, and that change alters everything around you. At this point, the connection can no longer survive on uncertainty alone. It must become something that is consciously and deliberately chosen. This is where fear begins to lose its grip on both of you. The awareness of what could be lost grows sharper, and the heart starts to speak more clearly than old patterns of self-protection. You chose growth, honesty, and alignment with your own truth. And now, the other person stands at the threshold of a similar turning point. The direction is shifting. At times, you may even feel a sudden wave of stillness or warmth arriving without any clear explanation, as though something between you is quietly adjusting itself. Clarity is approaching, and it will not ask you to diminish yourself or retreat into older versions of who you once were. Love, in its most genuine form, must be lived and expressed, not only felt quietly within. That is why everything has decelerated to this particular pace. If a return occurs, it will arrive with real intention and genuine accountability, meeting you in the clearer place you now occupy in your life. If it does not, you will not crumble the way you once might have, because you have already come back to your own inner stability and truth. You now understand the difference between chemistry and genuine compatibility, and between longing and true alignment. Whatever comes next will meet you exactly where you stand, grounded in self-respect and inner peace. Something is moving toward alignment, but it is not being pushed or accelerated. It is unfolding at its own pace and in its own way. There arrives a moment when longing naturally softens into understanding, because your relationship with the situation itself begins to change at its root. You stop asking why this is happening to you and begin to sense that it's happening for you. That shift carries tremendous weight, because it is the point where pain slowly starts to become wisdom, clarity, and emotional resilience. This connection has uncovered parts of you that were previously concealed. It has cleared away illusions and shown you the difference between intensity and genuine intimacy, and between attachment rooted in fear and love grounded in truth. As this understanding settles more deeply within you, emotional suffering begins to lose its hold over your thoughts and your daily experience. Your thoughts of this person begin to change as well. They become quieter, less turbulent, and more at peace with reality as it currently exists. When one person within a deep emotional connection grows and expands, the entire dynamic naturally responds to that new inner state. Energy always seeks its own equilibrium. When you stop chasing answers, things begin to move in different directions. This change is also felt by the other person, as your presence reaches them in a steadier and more grounded form, rather than through need or emotional pressure. This can unsettle them more than any form of pursuit ever could, because your quiet now carries meaning. It is no longer experienced as absence, but as space that requires honest self-reflection and inner examination. They're being brought face to face with their own patterns, the emotional barriers they constructed, and the need for control that once shielded them from vulnerability. Those same defenses that once brought safety are now standing in the way of deeper connection and genuine emotional honesty. Moving forward requires openness and vulnerability, while remaining stuck means releasing something meaningful and rare. The outcome is not decided by how intensely you hope, but by how faithfully you stay true to yourself. The more authentic you remain, the clearer the path becomes for both of you. Whether this leads to reunion or peaceful resolution, it will not undo you the way it once might have, because your inner foundation has already been rebuilt and strengthened. There remains unfinished emotional meaning within this connection that requires honesty in order to fully resolve itself. Words that were never spoken and emotions that were never fully expressed do not simply disappear. They remain until there is sufficient courage to bring them into the light. Where fear exists, that is precisely where your task becomes visible. At this moment, fear exists on both sides, but in different forms. Your part has been to trust your inner knowing, while their part is to open emotionally without retreating behind old mechanisms of self-protection. Both paths are already set in motion. The thought of reunion no longer carries desperation or anxious longing. Instead, there grows a steady preference for truth over illusion and depth over confusion. You are no longer willing to accept uncertainty dressed up as destiny. You want clarity, genuine presence, and emotional honesty. That inner standard itself is what quietly calls the other person forward to meet you at a more mature and meaningful level of connection. True emotional bonds do not exist to keep you in suffering. They exist to guide you back into alignment with your authentic self. You are stepping into that alignment now, and communication may begin to open in ways you did not anticipate. Allow things to unfold naturally rather than reaching for specific outcomes. Real reconnection cannot be hurried or controlled. If fear surfaces, allow it to move through you without letting it take the lead, because it is only an old, emotional pattern that no longer defines you. You are not who you were before all of this began. You no longer require external validation to confirm your worth. Your value is already reflected in every step of your growth, and life responds to what you consistently embody from within. Pay attention to how your body feels from moment to moment. A sense of ease, openness, and released tension often signals that you are drawing closer to your own truth. What comes next is about allowing life to reveal what is genuinely real and permitting love to find its rightful place without force. This connection is either rising into clarity or gently dissolving into understanding, but it is not yet fully complete. There is still movement ahead, and a conversation that may arrive at just the right moment when both sides are truly prepared. Stay grounded and present, because the next chapter will call for clarity, inner strength, and the ability to discern what is genuinely yours. A quiet confidence begins to take root when you no longer depend on reassurance from outside yourself to trust what you already sense within. You stop endlessly searching for signs because something inside you has already settled into a deeper and more unshakable trust. This connection now functions as a mirror, reflecting who you are becoming rather than who you once were. You no longer feel the need to justify your emotions or defend your heart to anyone watching from the outside. Real love does not rely on confusion as proof of its depth and presence. Your inner stability changes everything in your surrounding world. When you stop bending yourself out of shape to keep something alive, the connection must respond honestly to who you have become. It either rises to meet you or reveals its own limitations, and both of those outcomes are forms of clarity. They feel this shift because the space you once filled with emotional effort and longing is no longer the same. Your presence has grown calmer, clearer, and no longer driven by anxiety or restless uncertainty. This quality of presence brings concealed emotions to the surface where they can no longer be avoided or ignored. They begin to feel the true weight of what could be permanently lost, and a sense of responsibility slowly awakens within them regarding the choices they are facing. You chose growth and integrity, and now they stand at the threshold of a similar decision. The direction is shifting once again, and moments of quiet emotional closeness may begin to surface, even without words being exchanged between you. This is resonance. Distance may delay expression, but it cannot erase the connection itself. Clarity is on its way, and it will not ask you to abandon who you have worked so hard to become. Love must be expressed through action, not only experienced in silence, which is exactly why everything has moved into this more deliberate and unhurried pace. Anything constructed on an older version of awareness would have eventually given way. But what is forming now carries the genuine potential to be more stable, honest, and lasting. If they return, it will be with sincerity, accountability, and a genuine willingness to meet you in the open space you now inhabit. If they do not, you will still remain whole, because you have already found your way back to yourself and to the truth that was always waiting inside you.